Nomadwarrior2007, you just don't seem to get it. When you asked the question about Mary and being the Queen of Heaven and so forth, you did so with the assumption that sola scriptura is a valid doctrine, and therefore by saying that the only way that can be proven is through the Bible alone, when you have not proven that sola scriptura is the only deposit of faith that the church has. But I don't think you know what the deposit of faith is, do you? You keep saying, show me from the Bible about this doctrine of Mary. So you are assuming that the Bible is the only place I can go to find that. So you are assuming sola scriptura. It then becomes your responsibility to prove that sola scriptura is a valid doctrine. If you can't do that, then you have an invalid question. It is simple as that. The Catholic Church uses sacred tradition, sacred history, and the Bible to talk about Mary being the Queen of Heaven. By ignoring sacred tradition and sacred history, you then count on sola scriptura to provide you with an answer. If you're looking at sola scriptura for your answer, it then becomes your responsibility to prove sola scriptura is a valid doctrine to begin with, and that the Catholic Church then must follow only sola scriptura. So what I'm saying is, from an invalid doctrine, until you can prove that sola scriptura is a valid doctrine, you don't have a valid question, because the only thing you're looking at is the Bible. But you have not proven that the Bible and the Bible alone is the only deposit of faith that we have. Again, you don't know what the deposit of faith is, do you? When you look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 15, it says this, and Paul is talking for it. Therefore, brethren, stand firm and hold fast to the traditions that you were taught, either by oral statements or by letters of ours. What did Paul say? Hold fast to the traditions, whether they are oral statements or whether they are from letter or through the epistles that Paul wrote. So you say you stand by the Bible. Well, stand by the Bible. It says there, hold fast to the oral traditions, to the written traditions. And the Catholic Church sees that as sacred oral traditions and sacred history, which we follow, and not what you call sola scriptura. Through the deposit of faith, we look at several different things. But the only deposit of faith you think the church has is the Bible. And if that is so, then the Bible in itself somewhere must show that it is the only thing that the church has to go by. And that is the doctrine you call sola scriptura. So until you prove that is a valid doctrine, then you do indeed have an invalid question. When you can prove that sola scriptura is a valid doctrine, then you may have some grounds to stand on. Simple as this. We're at an impasse. Now, I don't expect you to answer every video that I put up, but I do expect a decent answer rather than the theological disasters that you keep throwing at people. So we're at an impasse. I can show you what you want to see through sacred traditions and the sources that I mentioned that the Catholic Church uses. But the SDA comes along some 1800 years later, formed by failed prophecies of Miller and White, teaches unfounded biblical doctrines, and expects the Catholic Church to prove to them what they believe. Read you something else out of 2 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. Correction on that, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. That has a lot to do with what you're talking about now that Christians need to guard against. Paul says in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20, O Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to you. That is the oral and sacred traditions. Guard those, Timothy. Guard what has been entrusted to you. And here's what you're doing that he warns against, Nomad. Avoid profound babbling with the absurdities of so-called knowledge. By professing it, some people have deviated from the faith, like the Seventh-day Adventist. And if you can't answer me, I understand. Just tell people you don't know the answer. They won't think any less of you. Until then, this has been Golly saying, God bless.